Welcome back to another episode of Content Amplified. Today I'm joined by Sid. Sid, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for the invite, Ben. Happy to be here.
Yeah, Sid, I'm excited. This is a subject that is near and dear to my heart that we're going to go over today. But before we dive in, let's get to know you, your career, work history, and background.
Yeah, sure. So I've been in marketing for over a decade now. Started off as a journalist, transitioned into corporate communications, and then deep dived into digital marketing, primarily beginning with SEO and content, and then kind of just growing out more tentacles to add more value to different teams that I was part of, and soon learned the tricks of the trade for email marketing, paid media, ABM, webinars, all the fun stuff. So yeah, in the last, I would say, 4 to 5 years now, I've been leading demand generation teams as well as supporting the pipeline goals for companies that I've been part of. And yeah, I'm just excited to kind of share some of those learnings and also understand from you like what are some of the trends that you are seeing out there and probably what we could then share more insights on.
Love it. This is going to be a fun conversation. I have also spent many years of my career in demand generation. It is a fascinating area. So, the conversation topic today, the role of content marketing in demand generation in B2B companies. So, first and foremost, how does content fit into demand generation in your opinion, Sid? I know some people have those separate, some people have them together, some people look at it in different ways and shapes and forms. What is your thought process when it comes to content and demand generation and them working together?
Yeah, great question. And quite honestly, this is something that I've seen even in organizations that I've kind of either worked at or consulted with. Primarily, what I see is content sits under the brand and communications side of the business, and then they play more of a support role to the demand gen function as well as like sales enablement and other functions as well. Where I do see like I would say better functionality as well as operational rigor, if you were to call it that way, that when content actually sits in the demand gen side of the business, that is where true value of content can be derived from right from the planning stage to the execution stage, and eventually also when you're thinking of the distribution strategy as well as repurposing of content, which I would love to kind of go into more deeper along the conversation as well.
Love that. So let's dive into the specific kinds of content that are actually working. I mean, there's AI, there's short form video, there's long form video. It feels like there's a million different ways we can publish our content nowadays. Are there particular types of content that are performing really well in the demand generation side of things for you?
Yeah, so from again working in enterprise sales and B2B, like where you have like long sales cycles as well as you are talking to different decision makers along the journey, I think it's important to kind of fill the funnel with all relevant content, and it starts from right from the top of funnel sort of informational sort of content all the way down to like the conversion, almost like a one-to-one ABM sort of landing page that you have for the respective prospect. But what I see in terms of content formats that are truly resonating with the buyers today is definitely short form videos, and specifically when it comes down to like explainer product videos, because most B2B are focused on like product which is either solving a real world business challenge today or potentially kind of helping them prepare for getting ready for like something in the future. And with a lot of the products relying now on like AI, so it is even more important to kind of go what's under the hood and kind of show exactly like why is it differentiated and how are you kind of ensuring that the data that the organization is going to be providing is going to be safeguarded and also not leveraged for like training their AI models and things like that. So I think that is where the educational and informational content comes in really handy, and eventually that kind of also plays a role in the sales enablement aspect of things, wherein like during the like sales cycle conversations when sales folks are typically asked like questions around like, oh, is my data secure, like how are you actually going to be using the AI to train your models and things like that. So instead of like the sales rep actually having to answer those questions, they could have ready material that they could actually share out, and that eventually then becomes a shareable sort of material for the individual to then even further share out with their buying team as well. So I think so content from like a format aspect, so blogs are still very relevant. The supporting content to that would be like short form videos and explainers. And then additionally, what I still see very useful are those one pager solution briefs or like product briefs. And that kind of goes down the path of, okay, like, is it going to be integrating with my existing systems? Is it going to also like solve specific use cases that we are trying to solve for? And additionally, what are probably some of the scalable functionalities of the product as well? Like, do we start somewhere and then kind of grow within the product? Like, is that a capability that is supported as well? So I think all those is great, like assets just to have handy, like for the prospect to also then further kind of become almost like the custodian for the product internally for their teams.
I love that. Now, when it comes to having content and making sure, like you talked about, that the sales team and individuals in the company are actually having the material that they need to help answer questions and help people that are asking all sorts of different things and needing all sorts of different information, that can turn into a lot of different content needs. And when you were talking, you mentioned the magic word of repurposing. How does repurposing help in that regard so that you can actually take content, reformat it, use it in different ways? But, talk to us through repurposing and what role that plays in all of this.
Yeah, great question. And that is definitely something that I can share some examples of as well with respect to like the work that I've done at previous organizations. So where I see like repurposing playing a big role is a lot of times you'll find like the content team like publishes blogs, but given like where they might be residing, like a lot of them either turn out to be like thought leadership blogs or like things talking about like trends, or potentially they become too jargon heavy for like either like the product oriented sort of technical blogs and things like that. So the way that I think of content and the way that I have also helped envision teams like look at content is what sort of funnel are they trying to fill? Like, are they trying to get more users to kind of become aware of a brand existing? Are they kind of already catering to like in market demand, or are they kind of trying to even probably look at a replacement solution that potentially like existing users of a vendor, like a competitive vendor, might be in the market looking for like a replacement solution? So the way that you think of these journeys is then how do you then create like almost like a overarching umbrella sort of hub page or a topic that you can cover, and then from that primary or like a primer that you can call on the topic or like a guide, can you create like various articles from catering to like the how to and like why, and also like what are the things involved and who is this for. So it's almost like taking that journalistic approach wherein like you're thinking of like the 5 W's and H for like the content creation, but also flipping the pyramid. Like, so instead of like going from the top of funnel to the bottom, like I typically look at content starting from the bottom up. So the way that that helps is it truly gives the user what they want at the different stages that they might be in. And it also then feeds the search engine algorithms with the fact that, okay, like this is like one piece of content that is catering to like the search intent of a specific keyword. But then within that content piece, there is so many like golden nuggets about like each aspect of like what a user might be looking for. So that is why like you would also eventually get like rewarded in search results, but also kind of automatically attract links as well to make it more authoritative. But then that is only like going to take that content that far. How do you then leverage that rich content to ensure that you have different formats to also cater to the different needs that we were referring to? So creating that infographic based on the research that you did and potentially using that to drive more of like influencer engagement or potentially like even like attracting social links, creating like short form video explainer out of that same blog and like linking out back to the blog again from the video and also embedding that video within that blog. That is another way that you can repurpose that content. looking at probably doing exactly what we are doing here in terms of like a podcast episode that dives deeper into one aspect of that blog. And that could be again something that could be used to not just generate like authoritative backlinks, but additionally also add value to the informational aspect to the blog and the journey of the user. So these are some ways that I can think of, and also practically having implemented some of these strategies to repurpose like rich content. But that is the true like value that you can derive when you are actually creating original, authoritative, and well researched content. It just allows for different, I would say, avenues that you can then tap into to ensure that you are having that distribution as well through the repurposing.
I love that. I mean, there are so many good examples inside of there of tactical ways to take content, repurpose it. And I love how you're talking about not just repurposing for different formats, but repurposing for different levels of the funnel and their different stages of the buyer journey. I think a lot of times we talk about, okay, I've got this big piece of content, I break it down into specific chunks, and then I can distribute it. But I love how you're thinking, okay, well, we can also redistribute it based off of where they're at in their journey and their experience with us and the buying cycle. I think that that's really cool and impactful. I love that. When it comes to content and demand generation, I feel like demand generation, and I've been there, you've been there a lot. There's very concrete goals and numbers that you're expected to hit month in and month out. And then you have content. And sometimes content is this vague thing where marketing teams are just saying, hey, leadership, I promise it's important. Not everything we need to do with content is at the very bottom of the funnel. I promise, like, thought leadership's important, all that kind of stuff, and our brand's important. How do you kind of align content to the metrics that the company wants to see? The pipeline, the revenue, especially content that may be higher up in the funnel. How do you look at that and kind of justify its existence and kind of measure what matters?
Yeah, great question. And I think it comes down to again like what stage the company's at. Like, are they truly in that sort of growth phase? Are they probably already like a well-established brand in the market and probably like playing in either a like duopoly or a monopoly as well? But if we are talking about like let's say the high SaaS growth startups that are trying to play either catch up with the industry or probably doing something completely disruptive and innovative and probably trying to create a category themselves. Like, I think the strategies would then be a little different when it comes to like what should you prioritize when it comes to aligning like content with the goals. But for this example, let's say if we say like aligning the content strategy to supporting pipeline growth. So for that matter, like what we should be then looking at is what is the existing content that is there across the website? What is it supporting currently with respect to, is it more top of funnel heavy? Is it more middle of funnel heavy? Or is it also having some of those conversion sort of aspect to it? And typically you would see like the bottom of funnel are of course like the product and service pages, the middle of funnel are more of the lead magnets, and then top of funnel is primarily like the blogs and other informational content, even in the form of like podcasts or things that would like help bring awareness. And then if we were to take these three and kind of break it down further, so typically like the way that I would think of content and the way to strategize it is what is the audience that is completely green, like unaware, and then breaking it down further to like those who are like aware of like what is their business challenge but probably won't be aware of like what solutions are out there to help solve it, whether it is truly just leveraging an AI solution or is it truly something that could replace something that they haven't explored today or might be like even replacing something that they have. So that is where they probably already are solution aware and using something today, but then might not be getting the results that they desire. And then there would be audiences that are aware of your brand, but at the same point in time haven't really like got into that time or space where they would say that okay, I'm ready to kind of explore like what are they up to and whether they match like what we want to do right now. And then of course there is that little audience where they've already kind of probably seen like demos, multiple demos of your product. They might have already kind of engaged with like the sales team as well, So they are well aware of you, but they just haven't taken that budgetary decision yet. And so the way that you then think of like aligning content to all these stages as well is, so definitely the ones who are more product and aware, I would say that is where ABM plays a great role in terms of like not just supporting like pipeline creation, but also like pipeline progression, where it comes to like the problem and solution aware, but not product aware. That is where like a lot of the thought leadership stuff with respect to like how is your product or service differentiated, even webinars where it talks about like some of the deeper dives of the use cases of the product, and probably even getting like customers on those webinars talking about like real use cases that they have solved with the product acts as a great testimonial as well. And then eventually kind of even getting them like face to face at like closed door events or even like field events. I think that would be again like beneficial, but to like allow for them to kind of get there, again it's content that is going to support that in the space of like either decks or even in terms of the solution brief or the product briefs that we spoke about, or even like the explainer videos that could be run like in person there. I think those are ways that we can think of aligning like content to like how we think of the different stages and supporting like pipeline generation goals. But then let's say if you were to think of like it's a brand that is trying to create a category, and that is where a lot of the education is going to be required. A lot of the focus and efforts are going to be more on the top of funnel efforts, but at the same point in time there needs to be also that differentiated aspect to like, okay, like these are existing XYZ vendors, like, but this is how like we are differentiated. It could be that they're providing either like a Gen AI capability. It could be that they are probably providing like something which is very innovative in nature and things like that.
I love everything you just said there. There's so many good nuggets, so many good quotes. We also like start every episode off with like a sneak peek snippet, and like there's already a dozen that I'm like, okay, which one should I pick and all that kind of fun stuff. So Sid, this is so helpful. Very cool. We do try to keep these episodes short, so we have run out of time. But Sid, if anyone wants to continue the conversation online and reach out to you, how and where can they find you?
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn is probably the best platform to reach me, and that's the only social platform that I'm on. So, yeah, getting in touch on LinkedIn would be the best place to kind of get started.
Perfect. I love it. And we will link to Sid's profile in the show notes below. So anyone looking to connect with Sid, scroll down, click on his name. You'll be able to connect with him online. I'm sure he's going to publish great content. If you want to hear more about demand generation and content, he's a great resource. Sid, thank you, thank you, thank you for the time, insights, and everything that you've shared with us today. Really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Ben.